and now all of my students just quickly clap their hands to make sure that they did the right thing. But good afternoon. I hope that you've enjoyed the second annual #LeadLikeAGirl conference so far. My name is Stephanie Champy, and I graduated from Stuart in 2012. A theme I've heard today in all of the sessions that I've been to is mentorship. And my greatest mentor was actually the college guidance counselor here at Stuart, Harris Siegel. And like Ms. Rule mentioned this morning, we can't take our mentors with us. And for me, that was true in a way that I wish it wasn't. And it's because he died 1 month before I started college at the University of Chicago. And more than 5 years ago, though, way before I graduated, we were sitting in his office as he made what was probably a throwaway comment about what made Stuart girls truly unique were their strong leadership skills. It was with this inspiration that in his memoriam, the pipe dream for the National Center of Girls Leadership at Stuart began. It's hard to believe that that one throwaway comment has totally transformed our upper school and continues to grow every year to even more girls beyond our green bricks. I am particularly proud that our conference this year, there are over 1,000 people here from all over the country, including 12 girls from the school that I teach at in Boston. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Joanna Vargas. I'm particularly excited to introduce Ms. Vargas because she is not only a graduate of Stuart Country Day School, but she is also a graduate from my alma mater, the University of Chicago. While at the University of Chicago, she created her own major combining photography and women's studies. Upon graduation, she moved to New York City to be the assistant's assistant at a magazine when she realized that her passion had always been beauty products and helping women create their own image to boost their confidence. She then found herself in beauty school where she discovered that she wanted to be a facialist. However, being a facialist is not an apt description for Ms. Vargas. After working in one of the first organic salons in New York City, she went on to create her own beauty salons in New York City and Los Angeles, has her own beauty line, and has patented technology to make beauty treatments even better. Her acumen as a businesswoman, innovator, and scientist has made her a leader in the beauty industry with clients including Emma Roberts, Naomi Watts, and Julianne Moore. Without further ado, Joanna Vargas.
Hi, you guys. It's so nice to be here. I'm so honored, actually, when Stuart asked me to speak. I loved doing this conference last year. I love all of you guys, so thank you for coming. When I was growing up, I grew up here, as you just heard. I don't really remember too many young women fantasizing about creating their own brand or starting their own company. A lot of my classmates, me included, were fantasizing about becoming doctors and lawyers and maybe bankers. But what I think is what's really cool about what's happening now because of social media, the world is your oyster. You could actually create anything that you want to and make it happen. When I come back to Stuart every year, I get approached by so many different young women who want to create their own brand. And it could be a fashion brand, it could be a cosmetics company, or even their own skincare. So what I thought I wanted to do today was talk to you guys a little bit about what I think are kind of the key things that I did starting out that made me successful and that helped me continue to grow my business and grow my own brand. Point number one is to be interested. When we're young, we're actually taught to be super interesting. When I take my little girl who's 5 to the swimming pool in the summer with her friends and I'm hanging out with all the moms, all the little girls are saying, "Mommy, look at me. Look at what I can do." And then we come to schools like this and we're all taught to be very, very busy distinguishing ourselves so that we can get into colleges. I went to college, as you just heard, for photography. I moved to New York because I wanted to be a photographer. But when I got there, I kind of realized really quickly that it wasn't for me at all. It was sort of, I was a fish out of water, and I really had to regroup and figure out what I was going to do with my life. But while I was kind of going through the angst of realizing the thing that I had thought I was always going to do wasn't for me, I started meeting all of these incredible artists, performance artists, and suddenly I became interested in the world around me. So I decided to take my time instead of pressuring myself into going into a next career that quickly, because I really didn't know what I was going to do. So I lived in Spain for a year, teaching English. I rented an apartment in Havana, Cuba for a few weeks to feel what it was like to live there. I did a lot of wandering. All that soul searching during my 20s taught me a couple of things. I can honestly say I can talk to anyone about anything because I discovered that there are so many things that we have in common with other people, even though they're from different cultures, different backgrounds, and maybe don't even speak our language. But the second thing that I learned was that I started to figure out who I wanted to be. And it was a really important life-changing moment for me. I think if you come out of school and you know what you want to do for your life and you go to college and you're really directed, that's awesome. I admire that. I was not that girl. But if you give yourself a chance to experience life, you can become inspired by everything. When I started beauty school, I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I wasn't really sure what direction I was going to go. So I just tried different things. The first year I came out of school, I said I was going to give it a year and see what happened. Then I gave it another year, and then another, and another. And that was 20 years ago. You have to live life in order to be inspired, and inspiration can come from anywhere. So try to remember that. My second point is to set goals. When I first started my company, I sat down with a notebook and I wrote down everything that I wished for my company to be. I wanted to have a global brand. I wanted to be recognized as a leader in my field, just anything I could think of. And actually, every New Year's Day, I pull out a sheet of paper and I do it all over again. I look back at my goals from the past year, I scratch things off the list that I no longer want, and I create new goals for myself every year. When you guys start a new subject in school, you maybe are going to your final exam. You don't go home that final week and just pray every night, right? You have to study for your finals. But even before that, when you first arrive on the first day of school and you're starting a new subject, you pay attention to the teacher, you do your homework assignments, you participate in class. All of those things are little things that you could do to reach your final goal, which is to be competent in the subject that you're studying, right? Well, business is kind of the same way. You have to set a big goal for yourself, and it could be something huge like world domination. And that's fine. But then when you go to the office every day, what are you doing? You're doing smaller actions that will contribute or drive you toward that big goal. And that's kind of how I built my business. At the beginning, when we first opened the doors, all I wanted to do was make every client happy. And after a few months of that, I realized that wasn't enough. I needed more clients. So I needed to make clients so happy that every time they left me, they would go out and tell 10 of their friends. That's kind of how I did it, one person at a time. They would tell friends, and they would tell friends. And that's why we keep on growing every year. It's really that simple. Success isn't something that just happens by accident. And I feel like a lot of people look at my career and think like, wow, how did she do it? Or, you know, how did you get so many celebrities? But it's really the simplicity of setting a goal and then getting up every day and driving yourself toward that goal each and every time. The next thing I want to talk about is expect to succeed. When I first had an idea, when I had the idea for my business, I went around and I talked to my friends, my best friends about it. There were people that I admired, that I had in my life that were kind of mentors to me that I went and talked to about it. And I'm not even kidding you, one for one, everybody told me that I was gonna fail. They didn't even tell me it would be difficult. They told me I would fail. The funny thing about going around and asking for advice from your friends and family and everybody is that it's your life. You have to live with the consequences of what you decide. And when I heard everybody telling me I was gonna be a failure, I felt like I had been beaten up, you know? These were people that I loved, and they weren't trying to hurt me, they were trying to help me, save me from the pain of failure or whatever. But at the end of the day, I have to look at myself in the mirror every night. And that's something that I want you to really remember. It's your life. I knew I needed to try. I knew I had a good idea, and I knew at the end of the day, it didn't matter what anybody thought who was in my life. And from that moment on, I kind of never considered failure as an option. And that's really important. As an entrepreneur, having no investors has a positive. If the business is successful, you don't have to share your profits with anybody. And as you're building the business, or even if you are successful, you don't have to discuss your decisions with anybody. You can just decide things. And that's the position I'm in now, because nobody wanted to invest in my company. But the downside to that is that you assume all the risk. When I started my company, I put everything on my credit cards. I maxed out like 15 credit cards. I would not recommend that. However, I did it because I felt like I needed to try. I needed to prove this to myself, and I believed in myself. And at the end of the day, whatever you do in life, you have to be the one to believe in yourself the most. There's not gonna be anyone that believes in you more than yourself. When we started the company, I was my only employee, and I did all the jobs myself. I would pretend to be my assistant when I answered the phone. I would do everything. But the cool thing about that time was, while I was kind of scrambling around being like, oh, Joanna, she's not here right now, was that I created a system for everything, and I created a system for how I wanted everything to be done. There aren't very many presidents of companies that can do every job in their company, but I can. I know how to do everything that goes on in my office because I created it myself. It is very common for people, friends of mine, to come to the office for appointments or to get something and tell me afterward that they can hear my voice when they speak to my employees. And that's really important to me. This business would not have meant something to me or mean as much as it means to me now if I couldn't put my personal stamp on everything. And if I had listened to everybody's advice, I wouldn't be standing here right now. So my next piece of advice is to be the best. Have you guys ever looked up the definition for best in the dictionary? It means the most excellent, effective, or desirable type or quality. To me, that means to constantly try to master the subject or field that you're working in. About 2 years into my company's life, I was struggling to find products to work with in my salon that I liked. I didn't love anything, my clients didn't really love anything I was using, and it was at that moment that I realized I needed to create my own skincare line. I made sure that I understood the science behind what I was doing. I made sure I studied ingredients. I made sure I studied other brands. I made sure I listened to clients. Being the best meant a lot to me in that moment. I did not want to bottle something and give it to a client who loved me if I couldn't stand behind it 100% and say that this is the best I could do. At the same time, if I ever fall short in some way, or if we have a client complain at the office, or somebody returns something, all I do is take a look at how we could be better, and I move on. A lot of times I feel like young people beat themselves up a lot about mistakes. And all you can ask of yourself is just to be better tomorrow, be better in the next hour. Striving to be the person you want to be is a constant, never-ending action, but it's really the only way to be successful. I just signed a lease the other day for a new space in New York. It's going to be 2 whole floors of a building. It's going to be the biggest thing I've ever done. Oh, thank you. Thank you. But with all of being the best in my heart, with all of being the best in learning from mistakes, trying harder the next time, I know that we're not going to fail. I know it's going to be successful. So my next point is to have vision. So I already discussed with you guys that you have to have goals when you start a company. And I told you world domination can be one. And what some of my goals were, but vision is really different. You have to kind of have a vision of how you want this business to go, or how you want your career to go, or how you want your life to be. What kind of a person do you want to be? Who are you going to be your clients? How much money do you want to donate to charity when you get older and you want to support something that really needs your help? Next, you've got to think of what you're doing in your vision. What role do you play in your own company? What does your day-to-day life look like for you? You need to have a vision for who you want to be, how you want to do it, and who you want around you. My vision when I first started was that I wanted to have a diverse staff. In the beauty industry 15 years ago, that was completely unheard of. I might as well have said I want a unicorn to be my receptionist. No one was doing it, and no one cared about it back then. I wanted a bunch of cool girls to work for me. I wanted to be a mentor to all of my staff because I wanted to help them feel successful in their career that they chose with me. I wanted to be a major contributor to causes that I loved. And in regards to the beauty industry, I really wanted to change the definition of beauty. Growing up, I used to read fashion magazines all the time. Beauty was always about looking the same as everybody else, or how could you fit into a mold? I wanted to change that. I wanted people to know that real beauty is what makes you unique, not what makes you the same. And in large part, I think that that's why so many actresses do come to me, because they need to feel that, because they are unique and different, and they need to feel like that's okay, because, they get ripped to shreds all the time in press. But everyone who works for me has to fit my vision. I have a friend who has a nail salon business in Texas. She has like multiple locations. She's very successful, but it's sort of a new business. She was just in New York a couple of weeks ago, and she was complaining that she had 2 employees that were constantly complaining about things that she was doing with her company. They were complaining about the press she was getting. They were complaining if a photographer was there. They were complaining about the products she was buying, just everything. What I want you guys to picture is, what if a really good friend of yours invited you to a birthday party, and everybody in the room was there to celebrate your friend, and there's one girl in the room who keeps on saying, "I'm not having fun. I can't believe she chose pink. I hate pink," or "I hate this game," or "this is stupid," or "I don't want to be here." What's it gonna do to the energy in the room? It's either gonna cause everybody to start to have a really bad time, or it'll make someone feel like they're embarrassed to have a good time because she's dogging on it. You know, it's not fun to be around someone like that. So when it comes to my staff, it's kind of the same thing. If you don't want to join the party, that's fine. You know, we have to move on. It's not worth keeping somebody around if they don't fit into the vision of how you want things to go for you. Clients who come into my salons, they need to feel like they're receiving my vision. You know, remember, my vision is about what makes you unique. It's being comfortable in your own skin. That's how I want them to feel when they have treatments. When clients buy products in the retail stores, it's the same thing. They want to feel like they bought a piece of that vision. They want it to make them feel better about themselves. So everything that my company does actually fits my vision. It makes decision-making really simple. I hire and fire people very easily because you either fit or you don't fit. Any direction I want my company to go in, the same thing. If it fits the vision, then that's what we should do next. I'm not really motivated by decisions that have to do with money alone. I know that sounds funny coming from me because I'm in sales. Of course, there are things that I make that I would like everybody to buy. But being motivated by money doesn't actually get you anywhere. There has to be some substance behind what you're doing. You will never make money if that's all you care about. Does that make sense? Next, surround yourself by like-minded visionaries. One of my most cherished parts of my life and my professional life is that I really created a network of really good friends. They're all in beauty and fashion. They all support me, I support them. My group are celebrity stylists, celebrity hair and makeup people, brand ambassadors, fashion designers, those kind of gals. This morning when I woke up, I got a text message. You know, thousands of people know I'm here right now. I posted on my Instagram. All my friends know I'm here. I got a text message from a friend of mine who falls into this category. Technically speaking, she's my direct competitor. She's a celebrity facialist with 2 salons who also has her own skincare line. But she was the first person who texted me good luck this morning. Because she's, I know. Because she and I aren't really in a competition, it's not a race. There's plenty of people on this planet, and we can all buy skincare and be happy. But it's nice to have that support. It's nice to have that. All of these women have their own vision, their own journey, and I really feel like they're sometimes the only ones who understand what my life is really like. They are a resource for me. We all sit around and talk about issues, we support each other, we give each other advice, and most importantly, we make each other laugh when we desperately need to. being a girl's girl has been a really important facet in my becoming a woman, becoming the brand that the brand has become, and becoming successful. And I want you guys to remember that. I feel like I learned that here at Stuart, but it's important to know that, you know, it's easier to support one another than to waste a lot of energy being negative toward each other. So my final point of the day is to stay curious. I read a ton of books, even though I don't have a lot of personal time. I listen when clients talk to me. I listen to my staff. I remember about 8 years ago, I introduced a new technology. I had purchased something that I introduced to my salon in New York. It was at a time in the business life that we didn't have a lot of money, so it was a great leap of faith that I purchased it and introduced it, but it became very successful quickly. I can remember hearing clients over and over again telling me, I wish that this wasn't just for my face. I wish I could have it all over. So it took me a couple of days of listening to all of that. I went home that night, and from that night, it took me 3 years, but I researched the technology. I discovered there was nothing in the marketplace like what they were asking for. So I designed something, I had it engineered, and I actually have a patent on it. I introduced an entire new way of treating the skin that didn't exist prior. And I'm not necessarily a scientist, but I pushed through whatever I needed to push through in order to create it. If I hadn't been listening, if I thought like, oh, I don't need to do anything anymore, I would have missed out on it. Now a lot of companies utilize this technology that I created, and it's kind of, it really is something that I'm most proud of, because it really shows that, you know, you've got to pay attention to what's around you, again, in order to be really inspired. So those are really the simple things that I did to create my brand. My life now is endlessly creative. I create new products all the time. I have created new locations for myself. I have so many amazing artists that I get to work with all the time. But what I want you to take away from this talk is that being successful or being good at something, it's not some secret thing that I did. It's not that I have some special sauce. You have to be your own most passionate supporter in life. You have to be your best friend. You have to have confidence in yourself, and you have to allow yourself to learn as you go along. And honestly, if you apply those things in your own careers, you will all be incredibly successful. So thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanna, before you guys head out, if anybody wants to ask me anything, I'd be happy to answer questions for a few minutes if there's anything you wanna ask me specifically. Anyone? Yes. It was, the technology was LED light therapy, and so I created an LED bed. So like a full body anti-aging, anti-inflammatory device. Thank you. Thank you. So There's a girl in pink back there that had her hand up. You want to ask a question? No? Does it, I mean, I do it when so my lab is in Florida, and I do go down to a chemistry lab, and I do make products with an actual chemist. But it doesn't remind me of chemistry because we're playing loud music a lot. And I wasn't allowed to do that in chemistry at Stuart. But it is cool. I mean, you know, it's just as you would imagine. You have beakers and solutions, and when you create a formula, you have to, before you put it in a bottle and sell it to somebody, you have to heat it to see what happens. You have to freeze it and see what happens. So you get to do all sorts of cool stuff to it before you sell it. Yes? How long did what? I'm sorry, I can't really hear you. Can we play telephone? Can someone push the question forward? To create the product line? Oh, okay. Sorry. My first product took the longest because I kind of didn't know what I was doing at first. So my first product took me 2 years to create, but now, like, I was just at my lab last year, and I was there for, I think I was there for 3 months, and I created 11 formulas. So you get better at it as you go along. Yes, all the way in the back. What? I'm sorry, what? Oh. What made me keep going? Because it was my baby. You know, being an entrepreneur is really difficult, you know? But it was something that I just have fun every day when I go to work. I love everybody who works with me, and we just have a good time. So it's easy, when you're having a hard time, it's easy to just concentrate on the positive, and it really gets you through all the hard times. Yes. Yes, you? I'm sorry, honey, can you speak up? Oh, and amen. I mean, yeah, I did, but it was unequal. I have, you know, I had one male friend who was more of a mentor, and he was like, oh, that's a horrible idea, you know? So, like, you know, you just can't, it's what I said, like, at the end of the day, I knew I had to listen to myself, and trust me, we've had many dinners that he's bought me where he's apologized for saying that to me. Yes. My favorite product. Well, my favorite product is probably my first one, because it was the one that I had to nurture the most. It's the one that I learned so much creating, and so it's always going to be my favorite product. And ironically, it's also my top selling product. So that's fun. Yes. How many products do I make? I think I make 15. Do I make 15? Yes. Yeah. I use my own products all the time. Yes. Yeah, when we're done, yeah, of course. Actually, my team is here, and they actually want us to do like we'll do a mini Instagram live. I want everybody to say, "Lead like a girl," and we'll do it live for everybody. We'll do it at the end. Does anybody have any other? Yes. My first major milestone. You know, one milestone at the beginning was I had to open a day earlier than I had planned because people wanted to come in. That was one. building the LED light bed was another one. The first time I was in Vogue magazine, I nearly died because, you know, I grew up reading it. The first actress I ever did, that was another milestone. Just this past Oscars, The Hollywood Reporter did a story, and they called me the official facialist to the Oscars. That was sweet. What's the name of my latest product? Oh yeah. You guys, I have a lot on my mind. It's the Supernova Serum. I just launched it Oscars week. So we did a lot of press, and we had a party and all of that stuff. Yes? That's a really good question. How do you build up interest in your company when you first get started? It's an excellent question because it's very difficult. You have to, honestly, at the beginning, I would, every client I got, I would write thank you notes to, and I would be like, tell your friends. One of my friends that you saw in that part of the presentation is Rebecca Minkoff, the fashion designer, and she's another real good girl's girl, and she would email all of her customers and say, I have this facialist friend that's really cool. So she did that for me rather. But it was really more that I got clients to tell their friends. That was really the only way to do it, because all of that stuff is good and important, but it doesn't work like word of mouth does. You know what I mean? Yes. One of my retailers is international. I sell in Asia and in Europe. I'm actually leaving for Europe to go do something for them in London next week. But it is technically, I just don't necessarily, I have kids. I don't want to be, people have wanted me to open in London. I just don't want to, Yes. That's such a nice question. Well, I just acquired this space that's really, really big. So right now I'm designing it, and we're already planning the opening party, which sounds silly, but it's like a press thing, But we just opened a space in a hotel in Los Angeles, and so our next thing that we're trying to do is go into the hotel spa business. Yes. I started the product line probably 10 years ago, something like that. Yes, girls in the corner. Yes, you. My biggest accomplishment, that's such an interesting question. I think my biggest accomplishment, honestly, is that I have such an amazing staff that work for me who really are incredibly special people. And it was in my vision. I really wanted that to happen. I wanted to love coming to work every day. And honestly, I am so proud of that part of it. I nurture people. I try to show them the way, and I have a lot of really incredible people. It makes me so happy just to look at them when we have staff meetings, and it's a big part of who I am. So that's been really good. Yes, in the front. Who inspired me to make skin products? I just wanted to do what was best for my clients, and I just wasn't finding it in the market. And when you don't find what you're looking for by shopping, you have to make it yourself. Okay, yes. You know, Nordstrom, Net-a-Porter, Neiman Marcus, Bloomingdale's just placed their first order, Free People, stuff like that. Yes. Yes, you. Ooh, my first actress. My first actress was Rachel Weisz, which you guys are too young to even know who that is. But she's my age. She's a grown-up, and she's an Oscar-winning actress, and she was really like the first one who championed me and told everybody about me, and who was really like somebody who was really on my side, so it was cool. Yes? My wander. I learned that we're more the same than different, that especially women, we all have so many similarities. There's so many things that we have in common and that we can be friends about. I learned about art. I learned how to talk to people without being so shy, because I'm actually a really shy person. I just learned to be more who I was and not to be afraid about being myself. I think when you're in high school, a lot of times you're a little bit scared to really be yourself because you're trying to fit in all the time. And so I stopped worrying about it so much and started to just be more real with myself. And, you know, part of what I'm also proud of is that there's nobody like me in the beauty industry. There's just not, and I'm happy to be that person. You know what I mean? I'm sure Vogue still doesn't know what to do with me quite, but they have to pay attention to me, you know what I mean? So it's good. Yes, honey. I'm just gonna, one more question. Oh, you know, when I was your age, I was the girl with the most lip glosses. I had the most, bubble baths and creams and stuff. When I was a Stuart girl, I was the first girl to wear makeup, which wasn't that good. Blue eyeshadow. But I just always loved the beauty industry, and I went to beauty school thinking, well, I've always liked beauty, I guess I'll check it out and see what happens, but I really just didn't know. So I tried it. So you should try things to see if you like them. It's like, you know, try broccoli before deciding you don't like it. It's good for you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. And you want to do an Instagram?
Yes.
All right, so how do we do that?
All right, before you get up, you guys have one job. I want to promote Lead Like a Girl on my Instagram. So when I say that can we go live? You do it. I don't want to do it. So when I say 3, let's shout, Lead Like a Girl. Okay, ready? Oh my God, she's fired. All right, so do a video, please. Ready? Hi, everybody. We're at Stuart Country Day School in Princeton, New Jersey, and I just wanted to say, lead like a girl! Woo! Thank you, guys.
Join us in the Middle School Resource Center for the Expo and Business Fair.